Hello and welcome to another EarthSystemData short video. This is kind of like after hours when things have calmed down. The 9 to 5 stuff has been and gone, and we can maybe do a fun video about something. There's more COP26 stuff to come. I know I said I'd do a kind of like a quick debrief when the dust has settled for all of that, so there's still some interesting material that we could very briefly summarize. Not in this video though. The reason for this quick video is that the weather forecast charts that encompass Christmas Day are now online in various forecasting centers and portals. And I actually saw earlier today there's been the usual kind of tabloidy comments about some of the prospects for white Christmases, at least over the UK. So I thought it'd be fun maybe to take a look at the charts specifically for the 25th. And also, whilst we do that, maybe give you an insight into kind of how you can decode the charts. And so you can keep an eye on them yourselves and work out what's going on, because they can look quite intimidating, but really there's 2 or 3 key things you can apply when looking at a weather forecast chart that can actually be quite revealing. So I thought that'd be quite a nice brief thing to do. So to kick things off, I thought it would be good to just show you what's happening today. And I'm obliged to point out these are charts from the European Centre for Medium Range Weather Forecasting, ECMWF, and it has one of the best forecasting models and computer systems to run very good forecasts. Most forecasts deteriorate as you get out to about 5 days, but the kind of research that goes on at ECMWF really is working to try and extend that forecasting horizon. Obliged to point out that you can go and get the charts yourself, and I'll put a link up to the website, but I hope you can see the cursor all right. I've made it really big and fairly obvious. What's happening today, so this is Wednesday, I think this was the lunchtime charts, and what we're looking at here, these black lines, are the altitude of a particular pressure level known as the 500 hectopascal pressure level. As you go up the atmosphere, pressure falls because there's less atmosphere. At sea level, atmosphere is usually about 1000 hectopascals, or 1 bar, depending on the system you're using. So you go up, gain altitude, pressure falls. And these black lines here are showing probably about around the 5 kilometer mark. They're showing the altitude where the atmospheric pressure is half what it was at the surface. So it's a good snapshot for kind of the undulation in pressure heights at an interesting point in the atmosphere from a forecasting perspective. So these black lines here is what you see. The colours, by the way, kind of like the heat map, is the temperature lower down at the atmosphere. I think in this case it's not quite surface level, but maybe 800 hectopascal. You know, just above the surface for all intents and purposes. And obviously in the heat map, orange is warmer. Green and blues are colder, and the current situation today, Wednesday, is everything's quite mild, and the reason is we've got this area of high pressure kind of sitting around here, and these black lines, as I say, they show the height of the 500 hectopascal pressure level, and up here the altitude of that level is lower because the air is colder, and so the atmosphere is more dense, and so it's constricted, and so the altitude of the 500 hectopascal height pressure level has come down. It's come down towards the surface. In this area here where the air is milder, it's actually gained altitude. And so when people talk about, you might hear forecasts talking about ridging and troughing. That's kind of what they're getting at, where the air is warmer, the pressure level rises, the altitude of the pressure level rises. It's almost like a ridge, isn't it? And then over here where the air's colder, there's a trough. So that's kind of what they're getting at. But anyway, long story short, we've got this high pressure system here, mild conditions. I believe there is a frontal system maybe kicking around just kind of in the borders region. And actually yesterday I drove up from England and saw the remnants of this front. I think it was a very inactive front, but a bit of residual cloud kicking around. And when I drove north, I turned around to look south at about sunset, and the skies were amazing. So I'll put my photo up, and you can have a look at that. But so that's what's going on today, and I just want to anchor your thoughts there, and we can move on and have a look at what's happening on Christmas Day, where the situation has changed quite radically. So if we bring up, this is, beg your pardon, I messed that up. So this is a similar plot, but I think this is for midday on Christmas Day, and you can see there's quite a lot more blue, not so much yellow over the UK. And what I want you to particularly pay attention to is this black line here, this thick one, and this is called the 528 line. And depending on how into weather forecasting you are, you may have heard it being referenced before. So the 528 line is the point where this pressure level, the 500 hectopascal pressure level, has fallen to an altitude of approximately 5,280 meters. This is an important demarcation in the way the atmosphere rises and falls, because if the 500 hectopascal height pressure level gets down to that altitude, it usually means the atmosphere is sufficiently cold and constricted that if anything falls out of the atmosphere, it's going to hit the ground, probably as snow. So Christmas Day, we can see that this 528 line has now come down from the Arctic, and it's actually encapsulating most of Britain, which is kind of interesting. And it may be why you've read some press today about the prospects. I haven't had a good look at the press, but I did catch something about a tabloidy headline about all Brits to get a white Christmas. The indications are it may, at least for part of the day, be cold enough. This circular blob here isn't high pressure, it's actually changed, and this is actually a dip in the atmosphere. It's a low pressure area. So this is interesting because low pressure is where the cloud and the weather is, as opposed to high pressure, which is very settled. So this is very interesting. There's no weather fronts marked on this map. It's just saying this circle here is an area of it's a disturbance, it's a low pressure. So around this circle there will be some fronts, probably a cold front coming back here, and then from this point here coming out here a warm front where this sector is warmer air, and the air will be flowing down here, and so we have a cold front here behind which is colder, showery kind of weather. So depending on what this system decides to do during Christmas Day, usually they head eastwards because there's a westerly airflow. So this at some given, bear in mind this is a 10-day forecast, is subject to change, but given what we see here, the prospects of some kind of wintry showers on the high ground, there's a forecasting term for you, associated with this situation, I would say looks pretty positive at some point during the day, depending on where this system decides to go. If it was to track up north, then we'd have more of the milder air coming in behind it. But certainly, judging from where the 528 line is, as I say, I think this is midday. It certainly looks cold enough that were anything to come out of the atmosphere, chances are that it might get down to the surface in the form of snow. So quite interesting. Let's see what happens. My advice would be to tune into the shorter range forecasts, as usually they're 5-day forecasts. So maybe by the end of this week and by the 20th, there'd be a pretty firm estimate. Maybe that we may or may not get a white Christmas. So stay tuned. But I hope that's two reasons really for doing that video. Firstly, because it's the Christmas charts are now online, but also I thought I hope you got something from this kind of gobbledygook that forecasters look at, but I hope it goes some way to explaining what these mean. And the more you look at them, the more you are comfortable with them. But I'll put a link to where you can get the raw data for this, so you can go off and have a look at the charts yourself, and do your own forecasts maybe as well, or at least keep an eye on what's going on. So there we go. Thanks for watching. Short and brief. Hope you're well and have a great evening.